Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's been a while since we've done
It's
this.
Wednesday. You know what that means.
Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of Drinking Champagne. Andrew, we skip a week, and apparently I forget how to do everything. I had to find the button. This was just a rough start, but you know what? We wanted to get an episode out this week. We got Keeneland starting up this week. We got some good races, I think, to handicap. One that I think we see somewhat similarly, and then as per usual, two that we just do not agree on whatsoever. But Andrew, how have you been, my friend?
Tired. Really tired. We're recording this on Tuesday night, and Tuesday is usually one of my gym days, so I'm pretty well wiped. And the combination of gym and it being 100 degrees up here in Northern California, not exactly a pleasant time for me at the moment. But got to tell you, excited for the next couple of weeks, actually. We've got Keeneland opening up this weekend. In 2.5 weeks, Josh, fall racing at Pleasanton. Very excited about that. Stay tuned. Fingers, toes, and eyes all crossed. I'll be doing a lot of really cool stuff there. And then we're into the Breeders' Cup the first weekend in November, which hopefully Del Mar will have a fair playing racetrack, and we won't have to worry about simply handicapping to find out who's going to be in the lead going into the far turn.
Yeah, you're talking about being tired, and I'm sure there's going to be tons of people out there that are probably going to be playing the world's smallest violin for my complaints. But Andrew, last week we didn't record because I was traveling for work. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I was gone for work. I was just driving to Wisconsin, so it wasn't anything crazy. I know you had some stuff going on, and we did that one episode kind of late in a hotel room, and I felt kind of bad, like not wanting to be super loud. So I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna, try and do anything late. We couldn't find a time to work it out, whatever, for last week, but that's fine. Stuff happens. Life gets in the way. You people get probably close to about 45 to 50 episodes of us a year, so I think that's plenty.
We're doing just fine. And if you are a loyal listener of ours, first of all, thank you. If you're consuming this on YouTube, go on down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps us out to be able to do this. And Josh, sooner rather than later, we're going to hit 100 episodes, and we're going to need something special to mark that occasion. We did not have a show last week, but my mind was still going. It's my curse. My mind doesn't stop. And I feel as though I should let our listeners and viewers in on one of the greatest ideas I have ever had, which I shared with you earlier, and you tried to act like didn't happen. So I need to get at least a response out of you now when we're both on camera. If you follow On the Wrong Lead, you are undeniably familiar with the show You Gotta Be Shot-Tinning Me, focusing on Hong Kong. It's fantastic. Josh and our friend Matt do phenomenal stuff. I think there should be a sister show to You Gotta Be Shot-Tinning Me. And that, of course, I think will go over very well with fans of the late 80s, early 90s cartoon Ren and Stimpy. I am, of course, referring to Happy Valley, Joy Joy.
I'll have to see if Matt wants to do a second show. The man, all credit to Matt. He has been pretty steadfast in only playing Hong Kong. He's kind of sworn off American racing. He's sticking to it, but he's played a couple of races here and there, but for the most part, his ADW is set to Hong Kong. So I'm sure he might actually be interested in possibly doing another show.
All I ask is, if you do that, I want the Ren and Stimpy style dance to Happy Happy Joy Joy as part of the opening.
That's not happening. But
you're no fun. You are 0 to negative fun. In fact, I invite everybody watching this on YouTube to go down into the comments and remark that not only does Josh hate money, Josh hates fun. By the way, I haven't trotted out a Ren and Stimpy reference in probably about 10 years. It's good to know I've still got that in the memory bank. I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but my goodness, when I had that thing in my mind, Happy Valley. What can we do? That sprang
Oh
right
my
into my
god.
mind. Folks, it is an absolute curse. My mind is this weird labyrinth. David Bowie's in there somewhere. It's not exactly easy to be me sometimes.
Um, continuing on my story,
There
when
you go.
we were talking about you being tired, and yeah. So last week I had to go. So I was traveling for work. It was a drive. It wasn't too bad, but you know, for some of us that work from home, um, I don't know about everybody else, but I've definitely grown accustomed to maybe waking up between 45 minutes and 45 seconds before I have to log on to my computer to like do anything. I generally try and log in by 9. Sometimes a little bit earlier, but usually no later than 9. And sometimes I don't get out of bed till 8:55 in the morning, right? So, I mean, what just a privileged life I live over here, working from home. Uh, Andrew, last week I had to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning every day in the week, and it was like,
Josh,
it,
absolutely no sympathy. Tomorrow morning, I have a meeting at 6 a.m. Pacific time.
yeah. So, like I said, people, no, there, people are not going to feel any sympathy for me. I understand, um, but this week, after having a week long training last week, this week, Andrew, I have to go in the office 4 days in a row.
Oh, dear.
I don't know how people used to do this, man. I'm
Thoughts
like
and prayers to you during this trying time.
I wake up at 7 once again to catch a 7:54 train to get downtown at about 8:45 to get onto another train and get to my office right around 9. So like it's yeah, it's just I'm I'm day one through this. I have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday still to go going in office. So, you know, I haven't seen this many people in a very long time. I mean I've seen people at like the airport, at the store, and stuff like that. But like seeing people and like had to interact with them, it's yeah, it's different, and it really just kind of I don't know, it just like really just like reminded me like how different everything is right now. At least for people who work from home. I mean, I'm sure like people who are working. I mean, I work for a hospital, so the nurses, doctors, all the clinicians, all the staff that have to go in every day. To them, it's probably just business as usual, right? But for some of us in the more digital world, yeah, it's been interesting the last couple weeks, and I'm exhausted, and I'm only halfway through this in person extravaganza over here. So
Josh, I am very happy for you because in that story, you proved some of our friends with the initials AJ and R right in that the world's smallest violin really needs an audience.
hmm
And I'm not going to go into what would have happened if you hadn't given your world's smallest violin an audience. It would not have ended well for our listeners.
all right, let's get on the Keeneland
Yeah.
here.
All right. Keeneland All Turf Pick 3 on opening day this coming Friday, October the 4th. Yes, folks, we are giving out a weather dependent multi race exotics wager. As of right now, the weather looks fantastic. The weather could not possibly look any better. Matthew DeSantis, I'm looking at you, buddy. This is all your fault somehow. But kidding aside, it's a fantastic card for opening day at Keeneland. The Keeneland Turf Pick 3 is a $3 minimum bet. It starts in race number 5, it continues in race number 8, and it ends in race number 10. We've got 3 full fields on tap. There's not a lot in the way of overwhelming favorites here either. If you've got a strong opinion and you're right, you stand to make a really nice chunk of change.
Yeah, I ended up going pretty wide in some of these. I have kind of an A B structure here, so obviously my stronger opinions are on the A's. But so if you want to play this for a little bit cheaper, you can. But I think we both ended up, right around the same amount, just slightly under $50 each for both of our tickets. But yeah, this first race, we're gonna be going a mile and an eighth on the turf here. We got a nice salty allowance race, an N2X, $120,000, and we got a full field of 13. And your morning line favorite is the 10, Olivia Meralda. You got 4-1 on the 8, Self Confident, 6-1, Dreaming of Mo, and you got three horses at 8-1. An excellent question, Stylish Sue, and Good American, and then you get double digits on everybody else. Um, Andrew, you mentioned our good friend Matt DeSantis, and I took an approach to this pick three, kind of with something in mind that he's mentioned before, and I'm sure he's going to have some track stats to back this up at some point in time. But we have a lot of horses in this late pick three, or this turf pick three rather, that are coming from Kentucky Downs last race. And those horses tend to usually not run all that well after that. Um, I'm sure Matt will have more stats, but I kind of had let's say, a soft fade against a lot of the Kentucky down shippers coming into here. And I think this first race kind of shows how I think I'm going to be attacking this, right? So I end up with four horses here. I have the 1, the 8, the 9, and the 10 in here, right? But on paper, I think the horses I liked the most were actually the 9 Stylish Sue and the 10 Olivia Meralda. I thought the 9 Stylish Sue is going to have a bit of a pace advantage coming into this race. Um, Frankie Dettori is riding for the second time here. You're cutting back from the mile in 5/16. And this is a horse that's shown speed going a mile, going wire to wire a mile. So the distance shouldn't be a problem here, and I think the cutback's going to be good. My only concern is that last race, going that extra distance at Kentucky Downs. Matt has said, that turf course takes a lot out of those horses. So what are we going to have a horse here that's going to be at its top, kind of in its top form? I think if Stylish Sue comes in and runs her race, I think she's going to be in here with a big shot. And the same with the 10, Olivia Meralda, who um, last year had a second place in a similar rate, or earlier this year had a second place here at Keeneland, ran well in a similar condition, finished second in the Gamely to a really nice horse, I believe, in Anisette, if I'm remembering that
You
correctly.
got it right.
Yep. Kind of didn't fire in that matchmaker, just kind of not, I don't know, just kind of a weird race. That matchmaker is always a weird race. So, um, and then came back in Kentucky Downs and ran a solid fourth in there. Gets Flavian Pratt back up, and I think some of those back races, I think, you know, absolutely win in the spot. My only question is, once again, horse coming from Kentucky Downs. So maybe I'm weighing that too heavily, but I'm using both these horses. I downgraded them to Bs. Um, and I kind of looked at the other entries in this race and thought, okay, who else has a shot that maybe hasn't run at Kentucky Downs? The one, Dreaming of Mo, I think is another horse that does have back races that fit. Most notably, that mile race at Kentucky Downs, I think, or sorry, Churchill Downs, definitely fits in the spot. Now that Churchill turf course obviously is who knows what it is at this point. They're resting it once again after a very arduous summer where they barely ran on it. But um, had two races at Saratoga. One you kind of cross the line in. They went a mile and 3/8, probably longer than this horse wants to go. They cut it back to the mile and the eighth, and kind of finished a solid third there in a dead heat. Made up a little bit of ground there, but I thought Dreamy of Mo made a bit of sense here. Dale Romans home cooking coming back to Kentucky. He always runs pretty well here in Kentucky. And then the 8 self confident, which is probably uh, you know I think of the horses that I haven't talked about. It's probably one with the most upside, I guess you could say. It took a while to break its maiden. Didn't break its maiden until at Monmouth. Uh, what 6 or 7 starts into the career, and then went back to back. Won an allowance race at Laurel. They tried Saratoga, and once again, it kind of finished in that dead heat for third there. And I thought, I thought that there's a definite improvement in Saratoga race. And if there's something we know about Shug, he brings these horses along pretty slowly. So I could definitely still see another jump forward for this horse, and another jump forward for this horse kind of puts it right there. Not really crazy about the 4-to-1 price, but I'm going to be using the 1 and the 8 as my A's, and I'm going to use the 9 and the 10 as well as B's.
So you went 4 deep. I'm going 5 deep. We have two horses in common. I am using Self Confident and Stylish Sue. Both of them are B's for me. And my strongest opinion isn't necessarily a horse I like. It's the fact that I am going to take a stand against your 3-to-1 morning line favorite. That's number 10, Olivia Meralda. I wouldn't be shocked if this horse wound up winning, but this hits me as a horse that should be about 6-to-1, 8-to-1, and is going to be significantly lower than that. In this kind of wager, where again, you have a $3 minimum bet, if I'm going to bet a horse at that kind of price, to me, it has to be a major, major player. And I'm not crazy about the post position. I'm not crazy about the underlaid price. I'm also not crazy about the fact that this horse has run 15 times and only won twice, excuse me. I know that some of those races came against significantly better horses, but I'm looking at this horse's races this year. The race at Keeneland, I thought set up beautifully for her. You go 22-4 to the opening quarter over a turf course that's got some give in it. They were flying up front. I think she's supposed to win that race, and she didn't. She ran well in the Gamely at Santa Anita. Anisette's a nice horse. I don't think there was a lot behind her necessarily. And I thought Anisette was much the best in that race, certainly better than the half-length margin of victory that she wound up winning by. They shipped this horse back east, and the last 2 starts just haven't been anything to write home about. Is it possible that with a little bit of class relief she wakes up? Sure. But she's going to be 5-2 or 3-1 in this spot. I just think that's too short. And I think there's money to be made going against her because her actual chance of winning isn't accurately reflected in the odds. If she beats me, she beats me. I'll tip my cap. I'll move on. But I'm going 5 deep against her in here. And my top selection is number 5, Sanctify. You talked a lot about Kentucky Downs and about how it's a lot like Las Vegas. What happens there tends to stay there. I'm drawing a line completely through the last out race where this horse was 10th beaten 8.5 lengths in a $1.6 million race. The race 2 back at Ellis Park, I thought she ran very well. There were a couple of races earlier this year where I also thought she ran well, specifically that June 7th race at Churchill, had Lasix, won by 4 lengths. 2 back, she has Lasix, wins by a half length. She comes out of stakes company here. She gets Lasix again, and I think she gets some pace to run at too. She's got a little bit of tactical speed, but I think her best trip is sitting in that second or third flight and setting things up to make one run. I would not be at all surprised if it's Sanctify that comes rolling late at a significant price in order to get the money in here. My other A, I guess you'd call it, is number 2, School Dance. This is a horse that has a lot of back class. It's a familiar name for those of you that have been following turf racing in California the last several years. This is a horse that's placed in multiple graded stakes races, was a head away from winning the 2022 Grade 1 American Oaks. The last 2 races came at Churchill Downs over sloppy tracks. They were off the turf. She's not a dirt horse. She just isn't. The race 3 back was in the Wilshire, and not entirely sure what happened there. I don't think she got a lot of pace to run at. You see 23 flat and 47-1. That's slow for Santa Anita. If you look back at some of the races she ran in early 2023, yes, I realize that was a while ago, but she was up closer to the pace than she was on that occasion. I don't think she got a great ride that day. I think she's going to be in that first flight with a stalking trip, getting the class relief she needs on the surface she wants to run on. Phil D'Amato is sneaky with these horses. He'll pop at a price with them. I see 10 to 1 on the morning line. Yes, please. The only other one I want to talk about is horse number 12, all the way down the bottom. That's Excellent Question. Excellent Question is 2 for 2 at Keeneland and 0 for 14 everywhere else. Can you say horse for course, boys and girls? I thought you could. This is a horse that definitely needs a pace to run at. The outside post is definitely a problem, but I see a horse that simply run way too well going a mile at Keeneland a couple of different times. I don't think the mile and an eighth is going to be a problem. I think Tyler Gaffleone is going to take his sweet time getting out of the gate. This horse may very well be last of 12 going under the wire the first time, but I think this is one that's going to come running late at a bit of a price. I'm 5 deep, 2, 5, 8, 9, and 12. I respect the 10. I wouldn't be shocked if the 10 wins. 3 to 1 just seems too short. I don't think there's a lot of equity there.
Yeah. The 12 was definitely a horse I looked at pretty long because of that horse for course angle. It's just interesting, right? All that time between those races, but that horse shows up at Keeneland and wins. And, I kind of was a little bit maybe I'm overplaying the Kentucky Downs angle a little bit, but I kind of like I said had the soft fade on those Kentucky Downs horses and decided to kind of go a slightly different direction. I will wait for the track stats to come out. I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure our boy Matthew's got a video where he's sitting by the Wilson chute or something.
Oh, for the love of God, why would you bring up the Wilson chute out of nowhere? Usually it's Mark Capitan that catches the strays. Why did we have to bring the Wilson chute into this? My goodness, it's been a month. I'm still not over the Wilson chute and how no main track only horses ran well out of there. My God.
Race leg 2 of this turf pick 3 is the grade 2 Jessamine. We're going mile 16th on the turf. Andrew, I'm interested to see where you went here.
There is a horse in the Andrew Champagne Betting Hall of Fame in this race, and I am not referring to Lord Miles, who won the Wood Memorial at odds of 59 to 1. Josh, I think you know exactly where I'm going here. It's horse number 8, Mayday Ready, who I gave out in the debut at odds of 25 to 1. Josh, if Chad Brown trained this horse, what would the morning line be?
Oh, probably 5 to 2.
That's what I'm thinking. I see 8 to 1, and I am very interested because this is a horse that has done absolutely nothing wrong. I understand that you're probably not eager to take a horse coming in from Kentucky Downs. I would be a little bit more reserved as well, but this horse won at Saratoga, going a mile and a 16th at first asking. I don't think this is a case of a horse magically finding its form in a field in Kentucky on the dueling grounds and not being able to replicate that anywhere else. Josh, I think this is a really nice racehorse. And Mayday Ready to me hits me as a very attractive wagering proposition at or near that morning line price. I'm not sure we're going to get 8 to 1 on this horse. Seems like we're far more likely to get 5 to 1, 6 to 1 maybe. But in a big field, maybe we get 8 to 1. But I see Frankie Dettori on a horse he knows very, very well. I see a strong kick. I see a horse that has some fight to her as well. I think this one makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to be using that one along with your 2 morning line favorites. That's the 2 Isle of Capri and the 6 Destino d'Oro. Of those 2, I think Destino d'Oro is a little bit more likely just because this horse debuted going a mile. That's never an easy thing to do. And this horse won as much the best. I don't necessarily know what she beat that day, but she looked really nice doing it. I see Flavian Pratt riding for Brad Cox. This horse is probably going to be your lukewarm favorite, but I think does have a shot and will be on my tickets, as well as Isle of Capri, who stretches out after going 6.5 furlongs last time out. That's my reservation. I'm not sure this horse wants a mile and a 16th, but I see a horse that went to the front and improved the positioning from there, despite having to go pretty fast early on. There are a couple of horses in here that were on or near the lead at Kentucky Downs through some pretty easy paces, or at least it seemed that way. I think Isle of Capri is a horse that may very well be talented enough to stretch out, and Brendan Walsh's runners tend to get better with experience anyway. So for me, I am using the 8 along with the 2 and the 6. And if Mayday Ready winds up winning, then all of a sudden, the horse that I touted at 25 to 1 that ensured the best bankroll section I've ever had at Saratoga, all of a sudden winds up 3 for 3 and en route to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf at Del Mar.
Yeah, and one thing I think I'll also add, with the two Isle of Capri going 6.5. I mean, that's 6.5 at Kentucky Downs. That's probably close to a mile on any flat track. So maybe distance won't need to be such a concern there. But I went a different direction here. I used three horses, kind of. Um, I'm going to use my lone A on the 9, Totally Justified. Coming in from the PG Johnson. One sitting just off on a pretty slow pace. They went 24 and 450 and one. Although hey, 24 and 4 in New York is like going, 23 and 2 anywhere else. So, um, I will say this is a George Arnold horse, and George Arnold loves winning at Keeneland. He points a lot of his horses to this meet. Totally Justified, I think, is been. Um, he's listed as an E5 on the Brisnet form, but I think he's a kind of a versatile type. He's sat off and closed on the dirt in the slop there at Ellis Park. Came up short, but still ended up passing some horses. So I think can pass horses. Even and is going to be drawn a little bit outside, so might need to just kind of work out a bit of a trip. Manny Franco stays aboard, and Manny Franco is just like the man who loves to cost me money. So I'm sure Totally Justified is going to run a much the best second, and I'm going to have egg on my face here. But the other horse I'm going to use is the 10 Italian Soiree, and this is a horse that broke its maiden uh, very very impressively, obviously at Aqueduct on the dirt, and ran second in a stakes race at Saratoga. I mean, by 9 lengths. And then they tried this horse on the turf first time, and the horse didn't embarrass itself. Ran fourth in a Grade One in a very full field up there at Woodbine. Came back. Is coming back here off of about 2.5 weeks rest, and the kind of the work patterns. I wanted I kind of looks like maybe turf was the plan all along. The horse just kind of happened to win a couple of dirt races or run well in these dirt races. So kind of looking back at some of these other races, I mean, this horse has been in against some really, really good horses, and is getting almost a little bit of kind of class relief here, I think. So I'm interested to see how this horse runs here in a slightly kind of slightly softer spot. Um, and gets Louis Size aboard, who I love seeing on the turf. And at least on Briz figures, this horse fits right in with what some of the other horses have run. And I like to see kind of the improvement there in figures. So it's a 20 to 1 shot. I have it as a B. And I really do like the 9 Totally Justified. But um, we're going kind of deep into the AEs here, and I thought it would be worth a call out to call out the 15 Virgin Colada here. Um, I think if this horse does draw in, is going to be one that needs to be on my tickets. So I have in my ticket. I have him listed. I have him as an A. Um, if he draws in and the 9 and 10 are still in, it's probably more like I'll use 9, 15 and maybe drop the 10. But yeah, I mean the 15. I think you'd kind of mentioned. Oh, if this is a Chad Brown horse, what odds would he be? I think was able to win that first race at Saratoga with a nice closing kick, and then I think just that second race they just went too slow, and he just she had absolutely no shot to kind of make up all that ground. Still finished second by a half length, but having to make up a bit of ground there, about 4.5 lengths from second call on those very very slow paces was just going to be a little bit too much with the slow pace. So I don't. Brisnet at least has that speed figure a little bit slower. That's probably due to the pace complexion of that race that it's so slow. You kind of look at the maiden breaker, and the maiden breaker I think fits in here with some of the other horses. So I think Virgin Colada would be a very tough in this race if she was able to draw in. So I have the 9, 10, and 15 written down for me in this race.
I tend to agree about Virgin Colada. I just didn't go that deep in the AEs when I was constructing my ticket. I don't think it's likely that Virgin Colada gets to run. I think that's a shame because I liked Virgin Colada a fair bit in the PG Johnson. And like many horses at Saratoga that I liked a fair bit, she ran well and finished second. I think she's got some talent, and I do think she's a candidate to improve, provided she gets a little more pace in front of her. I don't think there's a ton of speed signed on in the Jessamine. I do think there's enough for a closer to come and pick up the pieces. I just happen to think it's Mayday ready.
All right. And then leg 3, the closing leg here. We're going to be going 5.5 furlongs on the turf. And Andrew, you have a single in this race. I'm going too deep. And as usual, we don't have either of them in common. Andrew, you have the 7 Cloudwalker as your kind of your lone A or your single in this. I went just inside in Barre or Barre here for Wesley Ward and Frankie Dettori. Um, let me let me let me tell you a story, Andrew, and tell me if you've heard it before. Wesley Ward winning a turf sprint at Keeneland.
I've heard it before.
Yeah. Um, you know, this horse is won his last race or her last race here at Keeneland, going 5.5. Was run as a 2-year-old in those 4.5 furlong races to start her career last year, and kind of went to Saratoga, tried to break the maiden, didn't end up working out there. Was short pressed in both those races. Came to Churchill, broke its maiden on the dirt, and it was actually quite a while until we got to get this horse back on the turf. Ran a couple of nice stakes race and an optional claimer at Turfway Park, and then we had a nice allowance win there, and I think it's kind of backed it up with 2 very nice races, including 2, and both of them in off the turf. So this is clearly a horse they want to get on the turf. They've had a heck of a time getting on turf races. I mean, of the was it the 5 turf races this horse has been entered in for, 3 of them have been washed off. That's weather for you. And I just think that this horse getting on its actual surface and finally getting to do what it wants to do, and especially here at Keeneland, I think it's going to be kind of a tough to beat here. Frankie Dettori is riding here, and I'd love to see Frankie Dettori on a turf sprint. But I'm also going to use the 11, Amidst Waves, and this was kind of we talked about this a little bit. Hey, I'm fading all these Kentucky Downs horses. Like I can't use. Well, I think I'm getting a really, really good price on this horse. I'm getting Flavian Pratt aboard. And I just think this horse has just been in way too tough of spots the last couple times out. You kind of look back to last year, right? Broke its maiden at Belmont, went to Monmouth, won a listed stakes, won the Bolton Landing at by a nose at a short price. Ran well in the Indian Summer, ran second by a nose, and then all of a sudden you see grade 1, grade 3, listed stakes, grade 2. And I just kind of think that maybe this horse getting back here to Keeneland in a softer spot might be good to get this horse kind of going the right way. You're getting the right price, I think, here in 12-1. You're getting Flavian Pratt aboard. And like I said, you kind of just got this like dirtied up form because the horse was just kind of in over its head. coming back here to an allowance race, albeit a pretty good allowance race. Um, I just think like there's no big evs in this race, right? You're having a bit of a softer spot. So I like a missed waves here at a bit of a price. And those are my two horses. I'm going to be using the 6 as a A and the 11 as a B. Talk to me about your 7 though.
So I channeled our friend Chase, the Wolf of Oaklawn.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, I understand it's a sprint. I think this race falls apart. And with that in mind, I looked at Cloudwalker and I see a horse that has run in 5 turf sprints, has 2 wins and 3/3. There's nothing to nitpick there. This horse shows up when going short on the grass. 3 starts ago, had a nice win at Churchill Downs. 2 back, winds up running 3rd in the Coronation Cup behind some nice horses. I mean, we were talking about Amidst Waves having some back class. Cloudwalker has some back class as well. They tried to stretch this horse out to a mile in the winter memories at Aqueduct. I can't call it Belmont at the Big A. It's Aqueduct. Let's call it what it is. And this horse never had a chance. This horse does not want to go a mile. This horse acted up on that particular occasion. Draw a line through that one and move on. This is a runner that has run well here twice at Keeneland. In fact, broke the maiden here last October, came back in April, and yes, finished behind Barrier, one of the horses that you have. But that was this horse's first start since October in April of the following year. Safe to assume Cloudwalker needed a race that day. I think she gets a ton of pace to sit behind. I think she comes full of run, and I see a horse that, like a couple of horses you mentioned, gets to the right level and gets the right race shape here. Also, if Cloudwalker doesn't win, I honestly don't know who does. A lot of these horses grade out sort of similarly for me. I think this is a spot where you double down on a strong opinion, and my strong opinion is Cloudwalker is very well meant and should be an overlay at or near the morning line price. I think Cloudwalker's the most likely winner given that race shape, given some of the races she's run in the past. And for that reason, and because I needed to spread a little bit in the first 2 legs, she's a single for me to finish this off.
Cool. Well, Andrew, I got your ticket up here. You got 2, 5, 8, 9, 12 with 2, 6, 8 with 7 for a $45 ticket. And I have 1, 8, 9, 10 with 9, 10. I have the 15 in parentheses. If that horse draws in, you can swap it out for the 10, or you can use all 3. Do whatever you want. And then the 6 and 11 in the last race. That's a $48 ticket, mind you. These are $3 pick threes. They always tend to pay well. It's a low takeout wager. Love to see it. Santa Anita is kind of followed suit with a late pick 3 to kind of replace the Golden Hour with a $3 late pick 3 for the last 3 races, and they have a $5 double for the last race. I love to see stuff like this. I mean, I'm gonna miss the Golden Hour dearly. It was a fun wager. I think dollar pick 4s are great. Low takeout dollar pick 4s are great. They always pay better than they probably should. Golden Hour, Assiniboia Downs, late pick 4s, low takeout with a dollar minimum. And you always just get surprised. You're like, wait a second. It's a 6 to 5 with a 5 to 2 with a 4 to 5 with like a 3 to 1. And this is paying $400. Like, what's going on here? It's great to see. So like to see these higher base bets. And they're just fun wagers to play.
They are, especially if you have a strong opinion in one or more of the legs. It's a nice way to try to leverage some value out of that. For instance, if horse number 7 in the last Cloudwalker is alive for me on my ticket, yes, that horse might be 4 to 1 on the win end, but I could be live for a pretty nice score in this $3 pick 3. It's just another option for horse players. And honestly, that's the kind of stuff that I really like. Some of these ideas will not work. You're going to wind up trying things that are going to wind up falling flat on their faces. Looking at you, Racing Roulette. My God, we all tried to forget about that one, didn't we? But ideas are going to be out there. You'll lose nothing by trying them. I think this is a really cool thing that Keeneland does. Keeneland is doing a lot for handicappers as far as even the simple step of just offering free pass performances on their website. That's such an easy thing for a lot of tracks to do. I wish more tracks did that. Just being accessible to horse players and doing those little things right. That's not something a lot of tracks are used to doing, Josh. And if they were used to doing them, I don't know how many horse racing podcasts you'd have with people like us holding their feet to the fire on it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to always be negative on here, right?
We
we don't
don't
want to get.
want to be negative. The problem is when it becomes impossible to ignore, someone has to talk about it. And it's not going to be, certain people in certain outlets. So that's where people like us come in.
I mean, well, I'm also going to shout out Twin Spires, right? Who is just like the bane of my existence with what happened with Arlington Park, Churchill Downs. But they've rolled out this tournament system, and it's just fun. Like, hey, it's a $75, $100 tournament, right? Like, which for me is kind of the sweet spot for like, hey, let's play a couple races and see what happens. Good prize pools. People seem to love them. I saw people shouting out Darren Zocali for him. I, of course, had to dunk on his take on Chicago style pizza.
Darren Zocali is a good dude. I like that guy very much. And I'm going to tell one quick story that, Josh, I don't even think I've told you.
Mm-hmm.
When I was working for the chiropractic college a couple of years ago and got an untimely visit from the furlough ferry when they decided to start running people out because, hey, COVID.
Mm-hmm.
The first two people that approached me about, hey, sorry, we've got some freelance work if you want it, Ed DeRosa and Darren Zocali. Always going to be indebted to those two guys for that. They did not have to do that. They did.
Two guys with pretty bad food opinions.
I don't know about bad, but I would say strong.
Okay, strong is fun. Ed, I just don't understand why that man loves Skyline so much.
I don't know how much he loves Skyline as opposed to loving how ridiculously pissed off people get whenever he goes to Skyline and tweets about it. In all honesty, Skyline. By the way, Josh, I'm just saying Ed and I are remarkably similar in some areas. The fact that, if our mere presence is triggering certain people we don't like, that's a win for us.
And that's going to do it for us here on Drank and Champagne. You can check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. Andrew is at Andrew Champagne. Winnersandwiners.com. He's doing all kinds of stuff, including Survivor shows, articles about Missouri being idiots about sports betting, and who knows what else.
Hoping they legalize next month. Say my name and I appear, people.
And we'll be live on Thursday covering some fun stakes racing. We'll have another episode of You've Got to Be Shots Hitting Me. And hey, Andrew, maybe Happy Valley Joy Joy.
Happy Valley Joy Joy. Happy Valley Joy Joy. It's catchy.